33.
Edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C. This is our special Labor Day edition of World Crisis Radio. We want to put labor back in Labor Day in the sense of labor movement, something which has been much weakened in recent years, in which Obama is trying to finish off. Obama, despite what these right-wing babblers tell you, is the worst enemy of organized labor. He's got a union-busting agenda that includes the UAW, the American Federation of Teachers, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, basically everybody, with the possible exception of his own company union, the SEIU, those splitters who split the labor movement about 10 years ago. Obama is celebrating Labor Day. He's celebrating Labor Day by having the Labor Department release the new unemployment statistics. 9.7% unemployed under Obama. 216,000 jobs lost in August. That's less than in previous months, but you're basically hemorrhaging 250,000 jobs per month under Obama's pro-Wall Street bailout policies. This is the regime that gives $24 trillion to Wall Street and a couple of $100 billion, peanuts, chump change, for actual stimulus, infrastructure, and social safety net. We've got every state in the union implementing, with some few exceptions, furloughs, unpaid leave for state employees, meaning the busting of those unions, the weakening and demoralization of their bases, while AIG and the big banks announce super bonuses for their parasitical hedge fund hyena employees. So 9.7% unemployed, 216,000 jobs lost. The average work week is down to 33 hours a week, meaning that if you wanted to get hiring going again, you'd have to just increase economic activity by about 1/6. And that would get you up to close to 40 hours a week. And it would be, at the time you reach 40 hours a week, that some people might get hired, but you're 7 hours a week below the level where somebody might get hired. And the other thing that goes with that is the productivity is rising by quite a few percent, meaning, in practice, speed up, meaning that the workers that are still on the job, even though they're working few hours, they're getting paid for few hours, they are being mercilessly worked to death during the hours that they have. So let's start off our Labor Day program by calling for the repeal of the union-busting Taft-Hartley Act, the darling of Robert Taft, the darling of the Austrian school. The union busters of every stripe rally around the Taft-Hartley Act. And, of course, this is the problem of the American southern states, where union busting is institutionalized under the so-called right-to-work laws, which are union-busting laws institutionalized under Taft-Hartley. And we had who was that Republican candidate last year who said that he thought Robert Taft was Mr. Republican and a model for today? That kind of stuff we do not need. Down with the Taft-Hartley Act. And the other law that we do want to keep is the Davis-Bacon law, which is the law that mandates union pay scales on government contracts. Government construction work, even in those right-to-work states, have got to pay union pay scales. So defend the Davis-Bacon Act and tear up that reactionary Taft-Hartley monstrosity, and then you can take it from there. Anyway, Obama celebrates Labor Day with those awful depression statistics, and of course we're now at 21% unemployment according to shadow government statistics. My guess is somewhere between 21 and 25% real unemployment if you took the broadest, most inclusive definition. So this, my friends, is a world economic depression. It's a real one. Obviously, there are always conspiracies, but the background against which these conspiracies are played is that of a genuine, honest-to-goodness, honest-to-God world economic depression. We've got banking panic. We've got the makings of dollar panic. We've got a collapse of world trade by 40%, and you know the drill. So this is the situation. Now, Obama's also celebrating Labor Day by betraying the labor movement and his entire base, his poor base of dupes. Obama celebrates Labor Day by totally caving in on the health care promises he made to the Democratic base. Now, this is following pretty much exactly the scenarios that I have been outlining for you over the last couple of months. Obama is putting on a total cave. His entire campaign was a bait and switch. Surprise, surprise. He's a Wall Street puppet. We told you so. Yes, the Wall Street puppet, and puppet of the insurance companies. Don't forget them. He's a puppet of Wall Street and Lower Manhattan. He's also a puppet of Hartford and Boston and other centers of finance capital, this case disguised as insurance companies and health insurance companies. AIG, MetLife, The Hartford, Aetna, United Healthcare, and the rest, Blue Cross Blue Shield, on and on. Last night on Olbermann, we had a turning point of the entire situation, which deserves to be marked. This was the Thursday before Labor Day. Olbermann comes on and says it's clear that the Obama White House is now completely giving up on even this anemic, ill-defined government option or public option or government plan, whatever that might be. And they're now going to sell out everything. They're going to sell it all out to get the one tormented vote, maybe, of the reactionary harpy Olympia Snow, liberal Rockefeller-style Republican from the state of Maine, after all the other reactionary Republicans of the Gang of Six have jumped ship with Grassley and Enzi and other assorted reactionaries. So Olbermann advances the idea that progressive Democrats may be forced by Obama's repeated betrayals, he calls them compromises, Obama's betrayals, to find a new presidential candidate to support against Obama in the primaries. Now, I hope you'll remember where you heard that first. You heard it here first, right here. On the 10th to 11th of August, I issued a paper which you can see on actindependent.org. It is a call for a left anti-war opposition, but it prominently talks about health care. It shows what Obama will do. He's already dumped any idea of Medicare for all. He never said it, never passed his lips. Public option, lip service, but wistfully looking backward at what might have been. Public option, a fraud. Co-op, a fraud. What he's aiming at is a mandate for individuals, so-called individual mandate. You will be forced at gunpoint to buy insurance from a private, for-profit, deregulated insurance company with huge bonuses, huge overhead, huge advertising, huge lobbying expenses, and you can't sue them, and your life will depend on it. So that's going to be the result, and that is, of course, a disguised bailout of these insurance companies that are, in point of fact, bankrupt. Bankrupt because of what? Because of derivatives, because of the universal plague of derivatives, toxic paper, exotic instruments, collateralized debt obligations, structured investment vehicles, credit default swaps, mortgage-backed securities, asset-backed securities, and all the permutations thereof. 1.5 quadrillion and about 1 quadrillion in the U.S., both over-the-counter and exchange-traded derivatives. So that's Olbermann. Olbermann says this may happen. One of the things I called for in the paper posted up on actindependent.org is that there has to be a primary challenge to Obama in the same way that Ted Kennedy challenged the disastrous Carter, Bobby Kennedy challenged Johnson. We need a challenge to Obama. We'll be back in a second.
You're listening to GCN. The Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Radio, Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C. Our special Labor Day program, trying to put some content back into Labor Day in sense of having a labor movement to fight for the great questions of human progress. This was, of course, the genius of the New Deal, that instead of just having government and the banks seated at the table, there was at least a third party, organized labor, representing some semblance of a public interest, or at least